Hi, everybody. This is Loveline Bassi. Welcome to another episode of the African Businesswoman podcast. Today, I want to talk to us African businesswomen, and I'm not really just going to be talking about business tips, but I want to talk about conduct of an African businesswoman. Before I delve into this topic, I just want to say that I've experienced, not personally, but I've seen quite a number of things in the past week that's actually making me record this particular episode of this podcast. And it goes to our conduct as African businesswomen. And I'm an African businesswoman, so I'm going to address the African businesswoman in terms of our conduct. One thing I want us to always remember is that there are many women that have gone before us in business, and they have cleared and paved the way for us up to this point. And I'm talking about in terms of equality, in terms of access, in terms of having a seat at the table. Yes, we talk about the table is wherever I want to be, and I should be able to sit at whatever table I want to sit, regardless of who is at that table, in terms for discussion of whatever kind of business and whatever industry it is. I find that sometimes we as African businesswomen, we can take those access for granted. And we can take the fact that we have come a long way for granted. Let's think about, just a couple of years back. Some of us could not be at some trade desks, where they're making decisions. You have fewer women in Senate, you have fewer women in politics, and we've come a long way. There were some type of businesses like the export and import businesses that you couldn't find women in. Even now, it's really dominated by men. Yes, there are women in there, but it's still primarily men. Now, when we get in there, we must remember that there are people that are still going to come behind us. There are women that, even those that have not been born, and we have to make sure that we keep the door open for them. When a man messes up in business, they give him a pat on the back. They say, "Attaboy, go on, it's all men. Men are being men, they're being butch, and they're taking the bull by the horn." A man can brag, he can shout, he can misbehave, he can conduct himself whichever way, and he's easily forgiven. But when it comes to women, we cannot just shout anyhow, anywhere. We cannot just speak anyhow, anywhere. We certainly cannot manifest, because then we're being emotional, we're being unreasonable, and we don't know our place. We're crossing the line. So yes, it is a double standard. There is a huge double standard. Our lives, this world is a huge double standard. And knowing that there's a double standard, it means that even when we are provoked, whether it's in a business deal, we have to compose ourselves. Even when someone can be literally almost sticking a finger in our faces, doesn't mean we should get in the fight and get physical. Because what happens in that situation is they will say we're emotional, they will say we cannot be reasonable, and the next woman who wants to go in there, they'll say, well, women are coming to drag this place with us, women don't conduct themselves professionally, women get emotional, and that door gets closed to the next generation. Now, I've talked about it, broadly. Let me bring it to a bit of my story. I had a situation fairly recently, and it was a business deal. And this business deal, I was supposed to be a part of it. In fact, I was the key person to the business deal. The business deal should not even have started without me. The business deal revolved around me signing. Yes, there was another person that had to sign. But if I didn't sign on the dotted line, that business deal would not have gone forward. But you know what happened? I got alienated in that business deal. There were two ways I could have reacted. I could have lost my shit. I could have lost my mind and said to people, you know what? Screw you. How dare you take me for granted? I'm going to blow up this deal and may the chips fall where they are. You guys are disrespecting me. Yes, I was being disrespected. I could have yelled. I could have done a lot of things. I could have backstabbed. I could have kept the deal and done my best to backstab other people out of the deal. There's so many bad things I could have done. But you know what? I always remembered one thing. In that line of business, I was the first to get to that position as a Black woman in that setting. So was I going to now ruin it for every other Black person coming, every other Black woman coming behind me? No. I was very, very aware of what was on my shoulders. Now I I don't want to be the first Black person in that situation or young Black person in that situation. In fact, I was saying it the other day to someone that I'm surprised that I've become the first Black woman in a number of situations because I never saw myself being that. But if I reflect, I have become that. And I'm not afraid to be the only, the only Black person or only Black female in a setting. But when you find yourself in that situation, you have to remember that it's not just about you. You are representing you're a whole array of people. You're representing Black women. You're representing Black people. It's not intentional. It's not even what you went in there to do. But you suddenly realize that there are people that are coming behind you, that you have to make sure that door stays open for them. So that even if you did not break that glass ceiling, they can go right through the black ceiling. They can glass ceiling. Even though you did not break through the glass ceiling, they can go right through the glass ceiling. They can break it, and maybe you broke it, but you didn't get through. They can go right through that open space that you have opened. So I composed myself. I kept my cool. Every meeting, I was boiling inside. I'm not a cursing person. I'm not a swearing person, but I wanted to swear at them and curse them out. But I held it together. I chose to be professional. I chose to choose my words. I chose to show up even when everything that they were doing was essentially an insult to me. I showed up. There was only one time that I had to say to them, now this has crossed the line. I needed the person to back off because they were now painting me in a bad light and they didn't understand how that affected me as a Black woman because it made me, it's not the same. So I had to draw the line. But otherwise, I helped this transaction along, the transaction that I was getting, messed out of. But I helped the transaction along. I ensured that everything on my part made sure that transaction closed smoothly without any problems. At a point, one of the people said to me, that they did not believe and they couldn't believe that the way I behaved, that I was so professional, I helped them along, that not many people would do that. And I smiled and I said, thank you. But you know what? I never did it for them. I did it for other Black women. There were other young Black women that I was working with that I needed that door to stay open for. There were other Black people I needed that door to stay open for. So even if I'm not there, they can rise through the ranks. They can be seen as team players. They can be seen as professional. They cannot be painted bad by my bad behavior. So when you, as an African businesswoman, when you find a door open or a window open and you go through that, make sure that you do things right. Make sure you conduct yourself right. Make sure that you deliver right. Some people, they get grants, they get loans, and then they mess it up. And the next African businesswoman that is coming to get that grant, that loan, cannot access it because the people that went before you have messed it up. For Black women to become presidents in Africa today, it's because the first person who became the first Black African female president did her best to make sure she did her job. And she made sure she did it better than even the men who had done it before her. Because when you do that, you keep the door open for generations to come. You must understand the responsibility upon you. It's not just that you have a right to something, but you have a responsibility to something. You have a responsibility to yourself, to the next generation. I know that I have a responsibility to keep the door open for my daughter. I have a daughter. I don't want any business door to be closed to her because of my behavior. My mother knows the same thing. She conducts herself in a certain way because she knows the burden of having that door open for the next woman to go through. My mother is a pioneer. She is a strong Black African businesswoman, and she has opened many doors and shattered many ceilings for many of us. And that is why it is easier for us to walk through certain doors. So my fellow African businesswomen, I am saying this to you. When a door is open to you, when a window is open to you, don't mess it up. Do the job. Go over and beyond so that more access can be given to you and more access can be given to other people coming. And so that you can even grow and you will be the next person creating access for other African business women. Don't be selfish. Don't be greedy. Don't be arrogant. And all of this does not mean let people walk over you. You can stand your ground, you can state your claim, but you can't do it with your dignity intact. Do not embarrass yourself. Do not embarrass all of us as African businesswomen. And even when occasionally you lose your cool, it's okay. As long as it's not a regular thing. You lose your cool, you bring yourself back to the center. You recognize what the triggers were, and you make sure you avoid the triggers or you know how to deal with those triggers in future. Because once again, I have to keep saying this, the future generations depend on you to keep that door open for them. The truth is, there are certain doors that many women have walked through, and that place is a man's world, like a lot of places. But those doors have stayed open because of those women and the way they conducted themselves. If some of the men in those settings are waiting for an opportunity to close the door so that it can become a man's world again, just for them. So why would you want to give them that opportunity? Why would you want to deny your sisters the opportunity to have a better life, to have better access to finance, to have better access to marketplaces, to sit at top tables, to become top politicians, to become top business people? Why would you want to deny them access? Because yes, we create our own tables where we recognize women and it's organizations for women. But it's great when we go up against men as well and we come out on top and we're treated as equals in the business world and we succeed. That is how you get tested. Not just when you're tested against fellow women, but you're tested against men as well. So pull yourself together, pull your socks up. There's a lot of work to be done. We have a long way to go as African businesswomen. We have culture against us. We have society against us. We have so many things working to hold us back, to keep us back. But we are working against those things. We are pushing forward, pushing right past them, pushing right through them. When someone has broken through them, when you break through them, don't take us back, okay? Because the more of us that keep going forward, the world becomes a better place. The world becomes a better place for us while we're still here. The world becomes a better place for the next generation, and we're passing those principles to the next generation so they understand the responsibility upon them to keep the door open for the further generation. That's how it's done. That is how we keep women growing. That is how we keep the door open. That is how we keep making women, African business women, successful for generations to come. This has been Loveline Bassi. Thank you for listening to my podcast. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and more women need to hear this. Remember, your composure. Don't let your emotions run you. Control your emotions. Don't let your mouth run you. Control your tongue. Put your best foot forward all the time and go out there and rock it. Thank you very much. This has been the African Businesswoman Podcast. See you on the next podcast. Cheers and bye.